Well, I can't believe they let an amateur like you step into the ring.
Every time you so much as open that cruddy pie hole of yours, all you do is prove to the world that you are the biggest dumbass alive.
Hey guys, Nick here. Today we'll be getting into part 9 to the remake of What If the Governor Met Negan. Now, in the last episode we covered Daryl being kidnapped by little Timmy and the Brigade, being brought to the sanctuary, and the governor ultimately using some of his torture methods that him and the Croat had come up with to force him to give Rick and Michonne a message, Daryl being very reluctant to go with the governor and go back to the community he left, but he has to. Meanwhile, at Alexandria, we finally come back to them at the end of the episode last time, to the wolves invading, which pretty much goes, for the most part, the same. Very few changes to start with. Carol is still going out and making sure that the wolves are dead, protecting people. Change here is that Mika is assisting her. And Mika has actually become a pretty handy fighter, and Carol believes that now, more than anything, she can protect herself. Owen is still captured by Morgan in the house, and Morgan still meets the wolves on the road, and Nicholas still sacrifices himself for Glenn. So besides Mika being around, there isn't really much differentiation from the original story. And then the wolves on the road get killed by Rick, as usual. So this is why I didn't cover too extensively into this last time, because I felt the Daryl and Governor thing was definitely more needed in the last episode. But anyways, Owen is still told the story about Eastman by Morgan in a hope to maybe redeem him. And yeah, another thing that really doesn't change here. But then we get to another change, besides the Mika thing. Denise is all alone, because Tara is with the Saviors. So, this means that Denise is going to have nobody, besides maybe Eugene, maybe, to be able to assist her. So, if Eugene couldn't help her out in more ways than one, then this would result in more people, small people, dying, which wouldn't really be too big a deal, but same. Same difference. Anyway, speaking of deaths, Reg still does get bit here, because I feel if he were to live, really, that this would be the perfect moment to really kill him off better than when he got killed by Pete. But he didn't get killed by Pete, so next best thing. Now, even though I had Eric go with Aaron and then them meet Morgan, I bet you guys are wondering who's going to lead the Horde, or, the half of it, with Sasha and Abraham. Because there's no Daryl, so who's going to do it? Well, I think that this is the perfect moment to really up Beth's character. Because I've had her survive in plenty of stories, and I've had her be a centerpiece in a few, but I've never really had her play a really big role outside of maybe What If Amy Survived, where she sacrifices herself for Amy and, fights Beta with her. But other than that, I've never really upped her character in a way that would be memorable. So, she is the one who rides the bike instead of Daryl. Then they all get attacked by the Saviors in the road, and Beth gets lost in the woods, although she would be probably a bit more injured than Daryl was, no matter how much she would have grown at this time. She meets Sherry and Tina in the woods, but just before Dwight's about to hit her, it's really debatable as to whether or not he would, but then again, Dwight, Sherry, and Tina all thought that Daryl was one of the Saviors, albeit how he looked, and it should have been dead obvious that he wasn't. But I still think that Dwight would attempt to attack her, thinking that she was a savior. But instead, he is stopped by an unfamiliar voice to them, but a very familiar voice to Beth. Daryl. He had been already on his way back to Alexandria via his own bike. But then he saw what went down, or at least Beth going down in the woods, and decided to see what was going on. Now, he decided to save her because, they're lovers. Of course he would. And this greatly pleases Beth because she had thought that she would never see Daryl again, especially after hearing about what happened with Herschel, Tyrese, and everything else like that. She never thought that she would see Daryl ever again. And especially saving her like this is definitely going to be a good moment for the two to connect. But not yet. First, Daryl has to make sure that Dwight, Sherry, and Tina don't attack. And luckily, Daryl stopped Dwight before he attacked Beth, so she ain't injured at all. So, which didn't really injure Daryl too much. He was fine after Dwight hit him. He was just knocked out for the night. But anyways, Daryl makes Dwight surrender his weapon like before, except this time be under different circumstances. And then Daryl says very smugly to Dwight that Beth, isn't who they think she is. But he is. And this greatly alarms all of them, especially Beth, because she ain't knowing what everybody's talking about. Just then, Daryl shouts, "3 of you're looking for are in the woods. Come and get them." Because I feel that the saviors in the woods would have known that Daryl was given an order, and the word would have spread, so the saviors are not going to want to take Daryl back. They'll know that he's under direct order to give the word to Rick and Michonne. But, of course, Dwight, Sherry, Tina, and Beth, or any of them, they're not going to know about this. So before Dwight, Sherry, and Tina are taken away by the saviors, Dwight gives Daryl a look of pure malice. And with that, they're taken away. So yeah, big differentiation there. Now, this would be the perfect moment for Daryl and Beth to reconnect, because they really haven't spoken or seen each other since before Beth went off and got herself injured in Tara's place. So this would be a very good romantic moment for the two of them. And it would definitely make Beth very happy to see him again. And Daryl, even though he never thought he'd come back, is glad to see that Beth's still alive, even though he was told that she was alive, but he didn't care. He was wanted to leave. But then Beth asks, after she tells Daryl that she heard about what happened, why did he come back? Why did he leave? Like, what's going on? And who are those people that he's, with? Daryl says that he wants to explain, but he really had just been kidnapped by that group and then ordered by someone at the sanctuary, not the leader, but someone, that he needs to give a word to Rick and Michonne. That's the only reason he's back. But he'll explain later, but right now they gotta get back to Alexandria. Beth looks into the eyes of Daryl, which are blank and motionless. Really, this would be a very different Daryl that Beth would be looking at. But she decides to trust him for now. Not trust him per se, just listen to him for now and ask questions later. So, with that said, they reconnect with Abraham and Sasha at the building they were staying at. Abraham still gets the rocket launcher. Nothing really changes outside of Beth being on the bike and Daryl coming back, saving. You guys know what I'm talking about. But anyways, they go off. And with all that said, soon enough, they encounter Little Timmy and his brigade again. Now, this would be the first time that Sasha, Abraham, and Beth are all meeting the saviors. But for Daryl, he had already encountered them previously. Remember, they kidnapped him. So this would be the second time that Daryl's meeting them. So be a weird reconnect there. But anyways, he goes on to say that he found the three that Negan was looking for, Dwight, Sherry, and Tina, turned them in, and is now going back to these people's community, his old folks, to give a word to the two leaders, Rick and Michonne. Little Timmy, the leader, or whatever the frick his name is, says that they know about what's going on, but he doesn't know whether to trust Daryl or not. So he says, as a precaution, to take Beth, the girl, behind the truck and get all their stuff. He can do that, no problem. They'll trust him. So, with that said, Daryl leads Beth behind the truck, and seemingly they go to take the stuff. But whenever Abraham and Sasha start questioning on Negan, because I feel that that would have happened regardless, because this time I feel that Daryl would have brought up the whole Negan situation rather than little Timmy and his brigade. But while they're doing that, they officially get blown up by Daryl like before. Because, let's be honest here, Daryl really is just looking out for himself at this point, and still everybody he was with. But if you guys think that he was really doing this to side against Rick and his people, I mean, come on. Daryl was never a traitor. So, after all's said and done, Abraham asks, but before anyone else can, what's going on with Daryl? Did he know those people, and why did he leave? Because he wasn't, I don't think, around at the time. He was with the construction crew whenever all this happened, whenever Daryl, shot Herschel. Daryl says that he was originally kidnapped by those people and ordered by someone at the sanctuary, an old foe of theirs, to give a word to Rick and Michonne. But now that he knows that the Saviors might be after him now for killing little Timmy and the brigade, he can't risk going back to Alexandria to give the word. He has to go back to the sanctuary and tell Negan, or at least alarm the Saviors, that they were killed by not him. Basically trying to cover himself up and that he can't stay anymore. But Beth stops him. She doesn't want him to go again. She'd recovered, heard about what happened, and now has a chance to reconnect with Daryl again. And he's just going to take off? But Daryl says he doesn't have a choice. Because of Beth getting injured, he acted like a fool. It got her father killed, for Christ's sake. And it pretty much reverted him back to the animalistic, basically childlike man that he was all those years ago whenever Rick locked Merle up on the roof. It turned him into a fool, and that's what got her father killed. And he's doing this to protect not only her, but everybody else. He says that he wishes there was another way. And he's not just doing this, like I said, for her. He's doing this so that way he never harms anyone again. And even doing this was just out of spite of not liking this group. And the fact, the governor's with him. But he hasn't said that to them yet. And with this, Beth and Daryl have a tearful, romantic moment where they would hug, embrace, whatever the crap they would do in that moment. And this would be a very sad moment indeed, seeing that Beth would probably actually never see Daryl again. But before he goes off back to the sanctuary, Daryl gives Beth his crossbow as a way to better protect herself, and because he would have taught her to hunt way before this point, obviously. So he feels that it should be hers. But then Beth asks, why is he giving her his main weapon? Like, won't he need it at some point or another? But Daryl then pulls out a second crossbow and says that before he went off to go ahead and go to Alexandria to spread the message, he stole it from the sanctuary armory. So he's fine. Daryl never without his crossbow, at least not for long. And before he goes, he decides to relay the message this way and tells Beth, Sasha, and Abraham to go back to Alexandria and inform anyone who knows of the person he was talking about that he's back and that he wants Rick and Michonne. The three ask who this person is, and then Daryl says his name. Philip Blake, the governor, working with Negan, wants Rick and Michonne, as well as him, but mainly them, and he was hungry for revenge. And that's where we leave things for the moment, with the twist that the group will now have to go back to Alexandria to inform pretty much everyone that was there before knows about the governor. Well, albeit Alexandria being out of the equation, but you guys get what I mean. Definitely going to be a big twist with the group now having to come to terms with the fact that their old foe from back at the prison and everything in Woodbury is still alive. Hope you guys liked this episode. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.
Look on the bright side. At least you're gonna get beat by a real champ.
If you press me again, you a dead man.